so far, I also hired a PR company called Clawhammer PR, which is mainly a metal driven PR company. I thought, but that's my fan base. Though it's not a metal album, it's a rock and roll album. But those people who know me, right? Those are the people who come to the horror conventions and all that. So let me reach my fan base. They'll go, what? So I'm gonna have no idea even do music, and then at least maybe they'll give it a listen. I figure the bar for an actor is not that high, so hopefully they're pleasantly surprised when they hear some of the tracks.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the RRBG podcast. Today, I am being joined by musician and horror icon, Courtney Gains. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. Where's the beer?
Oh, the beers. They're all behind me right here.
All right, there we go.
Some of my most recent one, actually, right here. The Black Blood of the Earth. Very horror-themed. Something I think you
no kidding. Cool.
How are you, first and foremost, before we get started? How are you doing? How's your mental health? How's your physical health? All of those things.
Well, thanks for asking. Good. I'm doing good overall, man. I'm a little tired though, in that I had on Saturday I had two gigs in one day. I had a solo gig from 2 to 4, and then I had my band gig from 7 to 10. So that's 6 45-minute sets. No, 5 45-minute sets.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of
But
work.
hey, it's good to be gigging, good to be working, good to be getting my chops together, because we plan on touring a little bit next year to promote this record. So getting the chops together.
Absolutely, it's necessary. You know, sometimes you get distracted doing other things, other gigs, and then time comes around to play a show, and it's like, I don't know if I remember all the words.
Practice makes perfect, man. You know, the more you get up and do it, the better you're gonna get, right?
That's true. That's true. You have a new EP coming out, Safe Haven, October 2nd?
That's right. So a 6-song EP, and it's coming out October 2nd through a company called Fake Fangs Records. So you go to fakefangs.com, and you can either there's going to be a limited run of CDs, like 500, and you can get signed as well. Or if you go and pre-order right now, look out. The single came out last week. If you do a pre-order, you'll get a personally signed CD if that's what you want. Or you can go digi download. So we're cutting out all the middlemen this time and going direct, which I think is the way to go, because none of those people ever did squat for me on any of my other releases, from what I could tell.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. That was down my list of questions, but just kind of curious, because you've been doing music for a long time. I mean, since the 90s, and you've seen the landscape change of music pretty much over the years. And I wanted to get your take on what labels are providing these days. Like, what is it, is there even a need to have a label these days?
Well, I think it goes both ways, right? It's like, what is the label doing for you? On one hand, you could say that question. The other thing is, what is Spotify doing for you? What is iTunes doing for you? I mean, you get on these platforms, but I don't see them helping really do any sales. It's still all on you. So for me, this time I wanted a record label behind me to give me a little bit of help and help me design the packaging and help me design the order. See it from somebody else's point of view. It's like, okay, here's the order I think the record label, the song should go in, but maybe you see it some other way, because by the time I'm ready to put the thing out, I started tracking this thing in November, mixing and mastering and all this stuff. By the time you get to the end, it's like, I don't even know if, are these any good anymore? I don't even know. It's like when you're editing a movie for a year, you can't see the leaves from the trees anymore, and that's why you got to get it out and let an audience hear it and see what they think. So far, I also hired a PR company called Clawhammer PR, which is mainly a metal driven PR company. I thought, but that's my fan base. Though it's not a metal album, it's a rock and roll album. But those people who know me, right? Those are the people who come to the horror conventions and all that. So let me reach my fan base. They'll go, what? So I'm gonna have no idea even do music, and then at least maybe they'll give it a listen. I figure the bar for an actor is not that high, so hopefully they're pleasantly surprised when they hear some of the tracks. And you never know,
man.
Maybe they'll buy a record,
rounds.
or when we're touring, they'll come check us out, right? So
yeah. No, that's all. That's how I found out. I had no idea you were doing music. I mean, obviously once I got the email, I started digging deep. I'm like, holy shit, you've been doing this for years.
I started doing it. My first band was a band called The Gathering back in LA, back in the late 80s, early 90s. That was while there was a whole metal scene going on the Sunset Strip, there was an acoustic coffee house scene going on everywhere else. And that was what we were doing. And that was my first soiree taking the songs out that I'd written and seeing if they could actually, people would like them. I thought I hang my hat on that. I think I can write a good song. I'm not saying I'm the most shredding musician or the greatest vocalist, but I feel like I can write a good song. And that was my first test of that. And the response has always been really good. So, and that's what I love. I just love writing. That's really the creative high for me, is the moment where you start writing a song. Some lyric comes from nowhere, or you're noodle on your guitar or on your bass, and all of a sudden this riff happens and starts making you think of some ideas, and then next thing you know, you're an hour of just like, just trying to get this all out of your mind and down on paper. And that's a buzz, man. I'm not gonna lie. So that's a definite buzz.
And then eventually you keep working on it until you think it's garbage. That's what we were saying earlier. You work on it so much, you're like, I don't even know if this is any good anymore.
Yeah, it sometimes it depends on how well I tracked a lot of this record myself in a home studio, and that's what I've done the last couple songs, and it's been a learning curve, and I haven't always done it, great. And then you go in and do some editing and some tweaking, or add some more guitars, and then that's when you start layering stuff, and you start, I want to do some harmonies, and then you just start going down these rabbit holes, sure. Trying to fatten it out. But it's been a really good learning curve, for sure.
And you're still in LA, or are you somewhere else?
I live in Savannah, Georgia now. I moved here about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, I was looking, I've been in LA my whole life. 2017 seemed like the auditions were fading a little bit. I was like, I think 50-year-old pasty white boys is not the hot market right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, Savannah's got a good scene. I've played some shows there and been to many shows there.
Oh, yeah? Oh, really? Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah. So you got a band then? You're...
I used to be in a band. We were together for about 10 years, touring and putting out albums and whatnot. And then everybody kind of just dispersed into different states. And
keeping it together for 10 years is quite an accomplishment. What was the name of your band?
It was called Dissever. So like the act of separation, pretty much. We took it from an Edgar Allan Poe.
You managed to keep a band called Dissever together for 10 years. That's pretty good.
yeah, that's true.
But okay, you've been to Savannah. It's a great town, man. This historic arts district is just fantastic. And there's also a whole Southeast acting market, right? Atlanta basically, but really from Atlanta, it's actually 300 miles in any direction is considered the Southeast market. So since I've gotten here, I'm still, doing stuff out of LA, but it's also opened up. I've worked in Kentucky, I've worked in North Carolina, I've worked in Georgia. So it's opened up a whole thing there, but also New York is only an hour and a half flight. The last two gigs I did were in New York. The last two good gigs I did were in New York. Last year, I did a movie called Wrath of Becky, which is a sequel to the movie Becky that came out in 2020, which came out really good. Very happy with it. And I worked for Rockstar, which is the video game company, and they wouldn't tell me what it was because they keep everything super secret, but it was Grand Theft Auto, Los Santos Drug Wars, and it was a two-parter, great character named Lab Rat. So being here is actually, in a way, like I said, things were slowing down a little bit in LA, so I thought, let me move to another market and kind of open up all the markets, because they like to hire people regionally a lot now. That's kind of a thing, and so it's worked out for me pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Georgia's been taking off. I wouldn't say it's the second Hollywood, but it kind of is. There's a lot of production going on down there.
It's either the second or third now behind. It's either L.A., New York, Atlanta in terms of money making, or a couple years ago it was Atlanta came in second place before New York. So no, it's a huge market, and part of the reason too is they have big incentives, financial incentives to shoot in the state of Georgia. And then a lot of stuff shoots in Savannah because they actually offer another 10%. It's the best deal in the country, but Savannah's very specific. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can't shoot everything here. Doesn't have a big city feel or things like that. But a lot of stuff's been getting shot here over the last 4 or 5 years. I've had a lot of friends from LA come to here to work.
Oh yeah. I mean, I used to drive up there at least once a year when I was still living in Florida to go. The St. Patrick's Day parade out there where they turn the river green and everything.
Yeah. I've never done it just because I figure there's way too many people down there. I don't like a lot of people being around a lot of folks. But yeah, it's a huge. The St. Patrick's Day is huge. My band played a gig in Richmond Hill, which is about 10, 20 minutes away. For the St. Patty's Day. That's which Debilation. It was Debilation Brewing. I mean, if that doesn't sound like a Viking, St. Patrick's Day thing, I don't know what does. See, I knew something was telling me today to wear the green hat and stuff. I didn't know what it was. This was it. We're going down the St. Patty's Road.
Hell yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny. You know, you mentioned that you don't like being around crowds. I talk to a lot of musicians and actors, and I would say a good 80% of them don't like being around a big crowd of people, which is funny considering the career choice. Like you're in front of people all
absolutely
the time.
ironic, right? We only like being around a big crowd if we're up on a stage and everyone's adoring us. Apparently,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like me. I hate my voice. I think it's so annoying. And then I'm a podcaster and I sing in a band. So like it's such irony.
there you go. Exactly. You know, it's always hard hearing yourself,
Yeah.
or in my case, often seeing myself too. Seeing your face on a 35-foot screen can be very strange. And yeah, I've never gotten used to it. That's for sure.
So going into that like 35-foot screen thing,
Yeah.
what's the biggest show you've performed at? Like have you done any big festivals like that?
What are you talking about music wise? No, not
Music
really.
wise.
I mean, really, what would be the biggest thing? Probably the biggest thing I ever did with my previous band, Ripple Street, is we opened for Missing Persons. That's probably the coolest thing I've
Mm,
ever done.
that's cool.
Uh, the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of, though, was actually, it's a bit of a long story, but you can look it up. You can look it up. But I went on stage and played with Fish once in Vegas, and that was in front of about 7,000 people. I just
Wow.
played some percussion, and that was because I got to know the guys, and I pulled this prank off. They wanted me to pull off for this guy, scared the crap out of him. So they loved me. I could do anything I wanted at that point. I was like, let me jump on stage. They're like, done. So that's the biggest crowd. But right now, my band, like I said, we've been playing just locally, anywhere within 2 hours of Savannah. What the cool thing about the Southeast is it's very supportive of music. Like they have a lot of, and being this is a tourist town too, so there's a lot of clubs, a lot of restaurants that are booking bands, and so I'm able. So like I said, we're able to play. You have to play 3 sets a night, which is a lot of material. So I'm playing about 70% covers, which I resisted for a long time. In LA, didn't have to because it's more of a showcase venue. You come and play like your 40 minutes or whatever, right?
Mm.
But if you're going to play now and get paid for this, you got to bring your own PA system. You got to play your 3 sets. So 70% covers, slip in my originals, and getting the band tight to hit the road. And that's what we've been doing for 9 months now, and it's been really good.
Yeah, I'm like you. I kind of always look down on covers, but then there's only so much you can fight when you realize that certain venues and spots they pay well for cover bands. They pay cover
Right.
bands
Yeah.
better than they pay regular bands.
And I don't mean it like even looking down. It's just I always liked writing. That was really what my thing was. And it was like, why can't I play my originals? In LA, there was no resistance to that. As long as we had a following and people were showing up, that
Hmm.
was fine, and we did. So that was fairly easy to accomplish in LA. But out here, it's a different animal. And the other thing is, I'm just not like this kind of accomplished musician. You can like sound just exactly like the record of somebody else. It's just not my jam. So the other way I had to do it was to find song. I only play songs I actually really like,
Oh yeah.
and they're mainly older because I am. And but then I try to sort of interpret them my own way because I think that's what being an artist is your interpretation of something, right? I mean, when I audition for a role, it's on paper, 20 guys come in. It's like, how do I interpret this material maybe slightly different, or even give somebody a whole different take than somebody else saw? And that kind of gets you the jobs. So for me, I'm sticking to that same principle. So like, for example, we open with Desperado, but I don't do it as a ballad. I do it a little more up tempo and a little more almost kind of, I don't say country, but kind of, but it's not a ballad. I love that song, but when
Yeah.
I play it, my inner tempo tells me to play it at a different groove. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much how we do everything. So often I say you'll recognize this song eventually.
Nice. What are some of the other like some of your top favorites? I was going to ask you like who are your influences, but I'm assuming those influences are also some of the songs you're covering. So what are some of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
top songs?
That question is always a bit of a. I understand why people ask that question, but for me, it's always a strange question to answer. And the reason I say that is because I don't look at things from that point of view in terms of like, oh, I really love this person or that person. I'm going to try to sound like them, because I figured that out as an actor really early on when my mentor had me studying people like Monty Cliff and James Dean and Marlon Brando, who were the godfathers of method acting, which is what I subscribe to be. But even then, at like 15, 16 years old, I was very clear I was never going to grow up to be those guys. Like, right, I just
Mm,
don't look like those guys. I'm not leading men like those guys.
right.
So it was taking the method from them and the choices they made, but not in any way trying to imitate or be like them and find my own voice. And so as a musician, I'm the same way. You know, I really try to, I'm trying to find my, it took me a long time to find my own voice, as it were, and where I'm, you know, comfortable with my vocal and my vocal interpretation and like that. So I mean, so I pick songs I like. It's just because I like them. I don't know if that if I should be doing them or not. I should be doing them, but like I'll, you know, I just like them, so I do them. You're talking about like other songs. That'll come to me in a minute. I have some. I should just look up here. I do "Old Blue Jeans" by ZZ Top because I have a story where I got to meet Billy Gibbons and he was a cool dude. So like, yeah. Which
well,
I think
kind of have the beard to match a little. You know,
exactly.
Longer,
I'm getting
but...
the Billy Gibbons thing going now. It's inspiring me. Exactly. I do "Stay or Go," but like for example, "Stay or Go," right? To me, you're never going to have the attitude of the Clash. Like no cover band is going to have the attitude of the Clash. That's why they're the Clash, in my opinion, right? But as I started to learn the bass lines, I'm playing bass in this three-piece band and singing, I realized the bass line was hiding out as a very 50s groove. And I would have never picked that up if I hadn't learned to play the bass line. And I thought, wait a second. Well, let me think about this for a minute. So I started with this more of like a 50s groove walk to start it, and we only play the double time in the chorus once, and then we come back to it, and I play it very much more kind of like 50s in your face. That just feels right to me. So people love it. They get what it is, but it's not. But I'm not trying to. I can't be the Clash, man. Like, yeah. They got that, you know, they're just snarling when they're playing. Dude's got a gap in his tooth, you know what I mean? Like they are just punk rock, you know what I mean? And like, you know, so it's that's what I mean by interpreting material. You know,
I respect that. That's awesome because a lot of bands you see them out there that let's say you're used to their originals. And then you kind of they go and they copy almost exactly what the cover is going to be like, and no interpretation involved at all. It's kind of disappointing. You want a little bit of a twist. Like if I wanted to see like Cannibal Corpse covering a song, I want to hear their version of that song.
Well, if somebody's going to definitely have the nerve to cover material like record it, then they better come up with an interpretation. That I feel strongly about that. But that's what's amazing. I mean, when Stevie Ray Vaughan did Little Wing, I was like, oh my God, is he crazy? Like, how's he? Then he did it. You're just like, holy crap. I mean, Jimi Hendrix is amazing, but this guy could wail in his own right. And you're like, but took nerve, right? It took a lot of confidence to say, I'm going to cover that. Right? Yeah,
for sure. And as a listener, I also appreciate it because if I'm going to hear a cover that sounds almost identical to the original, I might as well just listen to the original. And I'm going to have that in my head, like I want to turn this off and put on the original. You know,
I agree. Now, if you want to hear us just jamming out, hear what this band can do, I have a Facebook page called Courtney Gains Group, and we just had a gig at the Grove, and we just got a new guitar player who's really adding a lot to the party. Really rocking it harder, and he likes Voodoo Child, so we do Voodoo Child, and nice. There's about 4 or 5 minutes of it up on there right now. So if you wanted to see how this band, if we can jam a little bit, I'm okay. I just hold the groove. But my drummer and my guitar player are pretty legit, man. They can play.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out, man. Anybody that's watching, make sure you check that out when you get done with this video. But now I wanted to ask you, you started acting at a young age as well, but what came first for you in terms of love and passion? Was it music or acting?
Yeah, it's a good question. You're going to get a middle of the road answer. I started studying acting and music at the same time at 13 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Now the difference was I was clear I wanted to be a professional actor already. That was clear. And I also studied with a guy who was a professional actor. His name was Virgil Fry. His daughter was famous for playing Punky Brewster in Soleil Moon Frye. And his son Sean Fry worked, and his stepson Mino Palouse worked. So when he met me outside of an acting class, he said, I like this kid's look. And I hated the class I was in. It was like theater-y and tap dancing in tights, and I was from the hood, and I'm just like, this ain't what I meant. And this guy got a hold of me and was doing like hardcore method work, and I was like, this is what I'm talking about. And he eventually became my manager, helped break me into the business. So I had a lot of support from the acting side on a pro level. Musically, I studied with a guy for a few years that never went managed anything that I know of. And I made a choice that I didn't want to know too much. And the reason I say that, and it's turned out to be kind of true for me, was I figured if I knew too much technique musically, that I was going, and if I knew too many other people's material, that everything I tried to do I was like, oh, that sounds like this, that sounds like that sounds like this. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to discover, playing up the neck myself. I want to discover my own rhythm. So that, and now that I am doing covers, it's starting to happen. And I was like, aha, I was right all those years ago. So, because, some of the songs are just three chords and the truth or whatever, right? But if I was like, oh, that sounds like this, oh, that sounds like that, I wouldn't have wrote as much as I've written. And that's the thing that's, I'm finally starting to put all this stuff out. I've been writing for years and years. And three of the songs on this record are songs that were in a movie called Benny Bliss and the Disciples of Greatness that came out in 2009. We were supposed to do a record off of that, and it didn't happen. And there's some really good guys in that band. We play live. The movie ends, it has this anti-technology message that ends in a vortex. And it's a 30-minute, 15-minute, rock and roll show. And it's just, awesome. And it's like I said, some of the guy that plays keyboards and directed it, Martin Gigi, he's actually Billy Gibbons' keyboard player and band leader when Billy's doing his own thing. And that's how I met him. I met him through him. But, so there's some good guys, some really good guys playing on this thing. And this character I play, Benny Bliss, looks like something between Evel Knievel and Elvis Presley. It's out there and fun. Nice. But I had written some songs that got in the movie, and they never, we never ended up making the soundtrack. And so then I wanted to get these songs out. So three of the songs are really I've had for a long time, and three of the songs are new. Calling Some BS, Safe Haven's about how we all need that place, whether it be our home or it be insiders for me writing music, that safe place we go, right, to recharge and all. But I have another song called Bills in Space that's about the billionaire space race, because I just think it's the giantest ego trip there is right now. So I write this sort of mocking song of that. Nice. Stuff like that. So stuff that I'm just I have a song called Big Brother that's talking about how we became Big Brother. Everybody thought it was going to be TV spying on us, which I'm not saying they're not.
I mean,
they certainly listen, right? But
I gave up on that idea a while back. I was like, you know what? If I need a cell phone, they got me. I mean, what? Mm-hmm. What am I gonna do?
But we've become way more our own police than we could have ever than George Orwell could have ever imagined when he wrote 1984. I mean, now it's us. We're online talking about ourselves, shooting. Look at me here. Look at me there. Look at me doing this. Look at me doing that. The phone's like a tracking device.
Yeah, we tag where we are so people know exact locations.
All the time, yeah. So it's so funny. So that's what the song is. The chorus is, "Who knew Big Brother would turn out to be you?"
That's a good concept. I like that.
So this was a bit of a storytelling record like that.
That's awesome, man. Going back a little bit, you mentioned learning technique. I had this conversation with a drummer the other day, and I was telling him a lot of musicians that I knew that weren't very schooled, but they were super, super talented, and they were kind of unique. They had these crazy styles. Some of them, when they started going to school and started learning technique, they started losing that edge. They started following the rules too much and not experimenting as much and trying to be creative.
Right. So my instinct told me that. Now, that being said, look, if my goal had been I'm going to be a working musician, that's my goal in life, then by all means, the more the better, because the more bands you can join, the more studio gigs you can get, and like that. I'm a hired gun as an actor for the most part, right? It's if you're going to be a hired gun, my drummer, I mean, he's very skilled, and he can do everything from prog bands to jazz to whatever. And that's why the guy's always in demand. He's always gigging, because he can play, he's got, 1,000 songs in his repertoire. Like I said, you see this video, he was going off in Voodoo Child, man. I mean, some of his fills and stuff are just holy smokes, But the same token, he'll do it, they go, oh, that roll reminds me of this. So that, it's he always reminds him of something because he's so schooled,
Yeah.
So it works for me. But if, like I said, if it's to be my quote unquote living, I probably would have taken a completely different approach,
Interesting. Now, also going a little bit further back, you said 13, you knew that you wanted to be a professional actor. That's really
I knew I wanted to be an actor since I was 6 years old.
Wow.
According to my father. My father said somebody, asked me, so what do you want to be when you grow up an adult? fireman or whatever. My dad said, no, you stop. You looked him in the eye, and this is what you said. You said, I'm gonna be an actor. Not I
Wow.
want to be, I'm gonna be. I think that's very interesting. He said it had such an impact on him that he never forgot it and thought he'd do anything he could to help me, achieve that, which they definitely had to, scratch the pennies together to keep me in acting class and stuff. It wasn't like I came from a rich family.
Yeah.
But they always believed in me, which is pretty important. There's a lot of actors I know who struggle with the fact that their families don't believe, or a lot of artists who struggle with the fact that their families don't believe in them or don't understand how hard it is, to even book a commercial or something. It's very competitive business. I mean, only like 3% make a living, maybe, or get in the union. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask that too. Like, how were your parents in terms of support at that age?
But
Because a
But
lot of
that
them
being
did.
said, I think when Children of the Corn came out, I did like 3 movies. Like I just went on this run. Basically, my mentor kept saying, as soon as you turn 18, you're going to work, because back then it was all about being 18 and looking younger. Emancipation
Mm,
laws. Now actors get emancipated pretty easily, and teen cinema was blowing up, and so everybody's like, as soon as you turn 18, man, it's going to happen, and that's exactly what happened. I went on a tear for like 5 years. That just worked nonstop, and it was that having that 5 years of training really made a huge difference. But I lost my. What was your question? I
well, no,
lost
I
my
was just
train
going
of
to
thought.
say, like, your
I'm having
parents
a
were
senior
supportive.
moment here. What?
No, I was to say, like, your parents, because I mean, some parents
Oh,
don't consider acting or music even as like a real career.
well,
So
I think it was in the genes. So my grandfather on my father's side, who I never knew, it wasn't around in my father's life, had been a piano player, a hoofer, and did small parts in movies. One time, my grandma was like, "There's your grandpa," and it was a Shirley Temple film, which I've never been able to find, but I
wow.
remember that scene. So it was there on that side. And then my mother was an entertainer. Like, she went to like a fame school, like in LA, where they would fly to various places and entertain troops when she was like 14, 15 years old, looking like she was like 19, 20. She was already well endowed. And then she
Wow.
started teaching dance at 18. So it was in the blood. And then she gave it all up for her first marriage, because back in those days, you sort of had to make a choice, right? So
Yeah.
it was in there. So I think, that's part of why they saw it was possible too. They had, my mom had done chorus lines in movies, and my grandfather done bit parts, so it was like it wasn't impossible. But that being said, when Children of the Corn came out, and then back right after that was Hard Bodies, right? I was like, bang, bang, bang. I think they were a little like, whoa, he's like really doing it. Like, I think it kind of like they were like, yes, you can. But I think when I actually started seeing it happen, I think they were like, holy smokes, this kid's not messing around.
For sure, for sure. That's awesome. Now, in terms of yourself, like between music and acting, there's a lot of memorization that happens. There's a lot of you have to memorize lines, you have to memorize notes, you have to memorize parts, riffs, everything. What do you do in terms of to help your mind, to help your focus, to help? Because I mean, I try to do a million things at once as well, and I end up sometimes a little frazzled, and I drink a lot of caffeine, so I end up like jittery and kind of crazy. So what do you do in order to keep yourself centered and also help your own mental health of maintaining all this information in there?
Okay, it's an interesting. Well, you shifted it to mental health, so that makes it an interesting question to me. So I believe that we absorb a lot of information every day, right? Especially when I was living in LA, right? Traffic, billboards, blah blah blah. If you're not finding ways to empty that stuff out, you don't have any room for the stuff you want to come in, right? So
Mm.
to me, and also as an actor, I don't know when I'm going to get my next job. I don't live a 9 to 5 existence. I don't live like a school existence. So it was important to me to start to have my own rituals and rhythms to start my day and things. So one thing I do is a thing called morning pages. That was out of the Artist Way. It's a really cool book that was really
Okay.
popular maybe 10 years ago. And so the morning pages is you start your day and you write 3 pages, so about 15, 20, even 30 minutes, depending on how long it takes you to write, of just whatever's on your mind. Don't think, just write. And that just kind of helps empty the anxiety and garbage that's already you're already walking in the day with, right?
Mm.
And then that's sometimes where songs come from too. Like third page in, all of a sudden some lyrics start happening or things like that. So I do that every day, like pretty much religiously. And then I also do some meditation,
Oh,
and I
okay.
also do a little bit of yoga. So I have this routine I do that. So I start my day, kind of clean. You know what I mean? I dump all the stuff that I'm too worried about, because we all have levels of anxiety. And then I think the second part of that is to be able to perform under anxiety. It's I don't I have some anxiety. I don't know that like I don't know, people say, oh, I have anxiety, I have to take something for it, or it's so debilitating. I don't know what that's like, but everybody has stress. Everybody has forms of anxiety. And if you're going to be a performer, you must be able to deal with it. So like same thing with music. Like before I go on stage, I have a little ritual I do. I get some anxiety before I start. It's a problem as a singer, because if you're too nervous, you don't breathe well. You start locking your knees, you start locking your hips, you stop breathing. That's the kiss of death for you as a singer, right?
Yeah.
So I learned this technique. I forgot where I learned this even, but this sounds just gonna sound really straight up. I'm gonna show you where you do a circle 8 like this, right? This counter direction, and you just follow it with your eyes, and it starts to change your breathing. And if you just relax, if you just pay attention, you'll notice after like a couple minutes, your breathing starts to shift. I think it's something to do with eye stuff that changes your breathing, but it helps me just slow my breathing down before I go on stage and get myself centered, so that I'm not up there, not in my body. Because auditioning is super stressful. They said auditioning is like the equivalent of stress of a test pilot doing a testing of a new plane. When I heard that, it made me like, okay, I'm not crazy, because I always found auditioning very, very stressful, because you don't know the material very well. You're coming into a room where you don't know anybody. They've all got jobs, and you're trying to get one. So you're not.
And they're all scrutinizing you and judging you and everything, because they're watching.
Or you feel judged or whatever, right? Yeah. And you're not in the strength position. They call when you get put out for an acting job, it's called a submission. Did you know that? A submission. Think about that for a second.
That's right.
That's a weird psychology right there. But so it's very stressful. Like nowadays, it's a lot of self tapes where you just film them at home, which I love a lot better, because if I don't do a good one the first time, I just do another one. And usually I'll do like 3. It's just like same thing doing takes as an actor. If I'm not good by the 3rd time, I'm not getting any better. So just, but you don't feel like you can stop and go, okay, what I want to do different. Let me think about this. Let me prepare. It's all about preparing for me, right? Like if I'm prepared, when I'm locked into a character, nothing's going to shake me. But when I've only had a few hours to work on something and then come in and try to make that happen, it's hard to lock in and be prepared. So dealing with stress, I think, is paramount, because if you're a performer, you're going to be dealing with stress, because you're getting in front of people and you're being judged and evaluated. We all do it, and then you're judging and evaluating yourself. And the more you do that, the worse it gets, right? Because the more you're becoming self-aware, the worse it gets. You start to close in. So it's trying to get the focus off of yourself and into, whether it be the music or into the objective you have as an actor. Like, what does this character want? Go after that. What emotional state are you in? Be in there so that you can get out of yourself. Because I have to block all that stuff out. Cameras, other people, other than who I'm dealing with in a scene, right? I got to get rid of all that. So I don't know if that's a long-winded answer to your question, but those are the answers I have.
No, that's very interesting. I'm curious about the morning pages. What was the book again that you said?
The Artist Way.
The Artist's Way. I'm going to pick that up, because
it's a pretty intense book, man. And a lot of people do it in groups. They actually have groups now. And the reason is because what it is a 13-week course. So you're supposed to be doing work every week. And most people, if they don't have a lot of discipline, when it starts to get rough, which is about halfway into this thing, a lot of people just stop. Because you're going to face some stuff. One of the distinctions it makes, which is really a really good distinction, is they talk about the shadow artist. Like, say you want to be a novel writer, but you work for a newspaper. So you're like, well, I'm a writer and I'm getting paid. They're like, yeah, that's cool, that's fine, but you really want to be a novelist. And that can be very confronting for people. You know what I'm saying? Like, where they really get down to the nitty gritty of why they're not really doing what you might even be, like I said, you might be a working artist on something, but you might not be doing what you really want.
Yeah, and they set their mind on one thing, and then they when you confront them with something like that, it kind of makes it combative, for sure.
Well, because this thing's paying you, this thing's validating you, and you're getting to do, and you're saying, oh, that's good enough. But
Yeah.
if that's not your true north and you haven't really taken that shot at doing what you really want to do, it can be very confronting. I know a lot of talented people, man, painters, artists, writers who never get their stuff out there. And
Mm.
because they don't want to face that. It's in talk about anxiety, like putting this record out. You don't think I don't have any anxiety about it. I do, and I told the PR company, like, look, get me reviews, good, bad, ugly. Just get me reviews. I don't care. Like, but of course I care. But I'm like, I don't care. Just get them. And
Right.
so far, I've only gotten a few, but they've been very favorable, and it's been nice. But I'm still like, I know that there might be a batter one or two out there coming, but if you can't take that, you can't take the heat. If you The bottom line is, all I really want to do with this record is share my music. That's really when I really boiled it down to that. And that's why I'm running to hit the road and all these things too. I just want to share my music. And what I know is, I don't know what's going to happen. Some people might like it, some people might hate it. I don't know. But if I reach one or two, three people even who actually dig it, who actually somehow it inspires them or makes a difference in some way, then you've succeeded, man. It's
Oh
not,
yeah.
if you want to, if you want to play on the capitalist game of, well, the monetary game of, well, how much did this record make? That's another story, and like that's getting signed by a label and them dumping a bunch of money in, and that's a whole other ball of wax. This is just an independent record getting put out, and this is just a dude going out and sharing his stuff. Keep it simple, stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And it's your passion. And whenever, depending on there's subjective perspectives and all that, but if somebody is putting their heart and soul and passion into something, I'm going to appreciate it regardless if I'm into the genre or whatever it may be. I can tell that there's passion. Like, I can tell when someone's just doing it to be famous. You know what I mean? Oh, I
Right.
got to do this. I can, be on TV and whatnot. And it feels fake and empty. But
Right.
whether or not I listen to heavy metal or acoustic guitars, like, it doesn't matter as long as it's passionate and coming from a real place, which
Yeah,
I
when
think
you
that's what
run
you're
a real
doing.
play, I think authenticity. I think that's what you're talking
Authenticity.
about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Authenticity, yeah, and that's something that a lot of people have a hard time finding. But it's
Yeah.
a lot of times it's because of all the conversations, like, I got to be this, I got to be that. Whenever anybody put those kind of seeds in my mind, and I started going and auditioning, trying to do what I thought they wanted, it was the kiss of death, man. It was the
Yeah.
kiss of death. When I was able to own my power on auditions was when I said, okay, this is how I see it. This is my interpretation. I'm going to come in and lay that down. And if I execute that, whether they take me or not, I can leave the room and be complete. I leave the room and I have no regrets. It's only when I didn't execute my ideas, then for days I'd be thinking about, oh man, I could have done this, I could have done that. But if I did what I can't set out to do, I showed up and I showed them what they would have got. If you hired this was the performance you would get.
Mm.
And that's when I really started to find, like I said, find my power and find my voice. And I'm approaching it the same way with the music. There's really only, at this stage, I've been doing this so long, there's really only one way I can do it. It's like,
Yeah.
this is the way I do it. So either you like the way I do it or you don't. And look, I was telling my son, man, if you can get 51% of the world to vote for you, you could be president of the United States. That's all it, like 50, like, you don't have to get all of it. You only have to get
Yeah.
like half of it, right? And if you think about it from a musician's point of view, if somebody sells 1 million records, right, which sounds incredible and a difficult task, and it is, but if you break that down into percentages, there's 300 million people in this country, much less in the world. You're talking about a very small percentage of people who get turned on to what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not, even though it sounds like an insane number, and it is on one hand, on the other hand, it's not. It's actually a very small number from the grand scale of things. So you never know, and you never know who hears something and what that leads to. That might lead to somebody else going, "Hey man, let's do a collab. Hey man, like, can we jump this song in a movie?" Or and that leads to something else, right? So what I've learned is put it out there, do your footwork, and then I believe from a spiritual point of view, God helps those who help themselves. I mean, if you do your footwork, then some kind of miracle drops in front of you. But it doesn't just happen if you ain't doing squat.
Exactly. Exactly. I tell that to everyone. You gotta do it. Some people hit me up like, "How did you get this guest?" or "How did you do this?" It's like, I did it. If I sit at home and don't do it, it's not going to happen.
I
You
got
have to get up
20
and do it.
no's till I got a yes, right? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
it. That's it. I mean, in acting, if you get 1 out of 10 auditions, you're doing extremely well. So that means you face a 90% rejection. There's a lot
Hmm.
of people who can't handle that,
Yeah.
you
So a
know?
lot of mental toughness is needed for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And almost, I want to say almost a certain level of arrogance, right? Because you got to go to the point of like, they are wrong. Like they don't
Yeah.
know. They're not seeing it, man. But I know I'm good. You know,
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you almost have to be like that. Like they're missing the boat. You know, because if you
Yeah.
don't, you're gonna get run over, man. You know, you're gonna get run over. You gotta believe in yourself, and you gotta have you know. But you only believe in yourself if you put in the work. You know, I mean, I was in class. I was either teaching a class or studying in a class for 20 plus years, you know, as an actor. I never stopped working on my craft. And I think that's why I'm still around. I think a lot of the actors I knew that were teenage actors didn't keep studying and didn't keep their eye on the ball to making the transition to adulthood. It was very clear to me that, you know, it was only going to get harder because anybody who's been sticking it out that long is really dedicated, and they're also probably they've also been studying for a while, or they just came from a big university like Dartmouth or Yale, or they got, you know, they got some skills. If they're still at this game in their 30s into their 40s, you know, they're at it, like they're not playing, you know. So I felt I had to keep up in my game and keep learning and keep getting better.
Yeah. Yeah, going back to what you were mentioning about, you don't ever know who's listening. The same applies for live shows and performances. Like that
Right.
you never know who's in that crowd. Maybe it's three people in that room, but maybe one of those three people owns a record label or owns a
Right.
company or has a ton of money and doesn't know what to do with it. And they're like,
It,
"I really love this. Let me help you."
it can be, yeah, exactly. You just never know. And it can be the smallest thing. Like we play out this one place, we play at the Grove quite a bit downtown. It's on a rooftop. And
Mm.
it's so cool. People come up and like, we heard you out on the street when we came up, you know?
Nice.
You're like, that's dope, right? They don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know. They're just hearing music and it's speaking to them enough that they're like, we got to go up there and see who this band is. I love
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely. Like for me personally, I've been focusing more on performances because we were talking about anxiety and mental health and all that, and like most of my anxiety and my stress comes from before the performance, like
Yes.
right before. Like, but once we
Yes.
get on stage, I get calm. There's like a calmness that overcomes me. All the stress goes away, and I'm just doing the thing. And
Try that crazy breathing exercise on your own. Try it and see what you might be surprised. It just slows you down.
it makes sense to me. I mean, I believe in the infinite nature of the universe, and if you're doing the infinite signal, I mean that they kind of it's all there. It's all connected, for sure.
That's
And
true too. But yeah, all I know is it works. I don't, you know, if it was this way, that all I know is my breathing. I'm like, start to
calms you
ground.
down.
That's, you know, that's what I need so I can get out there and be grounded and be focused and not. So when you're what happens, you know, again, it's happening many times in auditions. Certainly playing too. If I'm nervous, I start rushing. You start rushing, you
Hmm.
start making mistakes.
Yep. Yep. And that brings me to my point of what I've been doing lately to try and help out because I've been doing a lot more stand up comedy too. And right before,
Oh, that
yeah.
takes that takes cojones, my friend.
I know. Like right before you get on stage, my hands are sweating. I'm rehearsing in my head like the words that I'm gonna say. So I've been trying to focus a lot more on trying to keep that information in there, keep my mental health kind of focused and it tight so that I don't mess up on stage. Yeah, well, although that's never been an issue in the past. As I'm getting older, I don't want to lose anything.
Well, man, but stand up. I mean, stand up is like it's just you. You're up there by yourself, and it's
Can't blame the
instant
drummer.
feedback. Funny, not funny. Like
Yeah.
it's like it's a lot. I mean, a lot less subjective. You pretty much know where you stand when you leave that
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
The only
Can't-
way I'd ever have the guts to do that would be if I knew if I felt I had some killer material. You know, somebody help me write some material, and I'm like,
Mm.
I know this is funny. To get up there and like write your own stuff and not know how it's going to go down like that by yourself, that takes cojones, man. But I'll tell you, that's the difference, in my opinion, between living and not living is being on the court of life. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I say, anybody can pay their 20, 30, 40, $50 to go to the basketball game and go, that guy sucks. Well, yeah, that guy sucks is in the top 1% of basketball players in the world. Who are you?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
people think, I pay my $50, I can go do whatever I want. Now, you can to some degree, but but the level of disrespect sometimes I find shocking. But the one who's living life regardless is the one who's on the court. So going to do stand up, man, that's getting on the court of life. If you ain't sweating, if you ain't shitting your pants, you ain't up to nothing in life. That's what I have to say.
That's true. That is true. If the fact that when I get nervous before a set, that's how I know that I'm doing the right thing. Keeps me on track. Right. So one of the things I was curious as to your methods, because I'm actually wrote down the book, The Artist's Way, and the morning pages sounds very interesting to me, because I've been trying to find ways to keep my focus and keep my thing. And one of the things that a lot of people do that I know, that I've spoken to, they drink, they'll drink some beers, they'll have a couple shots. I can't do that because I start getting blurry.
They do that to take the edge out because they're nervous.
Exactly. And then I drink also a lot of caffeine during the day because I'm Cuban and that's just part of our bloodline. Like, we just drink a lot of coffee. But one thing that I've been drinking lately, I wanted to bring it up for you, is Magic Mind. I've been drinking this Magic Mind shots. You can see it there. There we go.
Yeah.
All natural ingredients. It has matcha green tea in there, so you get a little bit of that
matcha
energy.
Green tea is good. I drink matcha chai green. I'm a chai tea addict. I drink this matcha green tea at this healthy place that's really good. It does calm you down a little bit. So that stuff might work. That might be your key, man. Pound some of this right before you go on stage.
Yeah, Magic Mind matcha green tea has adaptogens. It's got nootropics, so a lot of the healthy mushrooms that like lion's mane and cordyceps and that kind of stuff that helps open up pathways in your in your brain. That helps you save more information, helps you process more things. But
I think you should do it in a shot glass in front of people, like at the club, though, before you go on. They'll be like, what the hell is he drinking? And they don't tell me.
Take a shot on stage. But yeah, I'm actually take
a shot of matcha
right
on stage. There you go.
Yeah, it also has a bunch of vitamins too, vitamin D and B, so for and echinacea for immunity. It's just a healthy shot.
Yeah,
it's a healthy shot.
Very good. There you go. Let's see what happens here.
And it tastes good. That's the other thing. A lot of these healthy shots taste like the worst thing, like dirt. But that, to me, it's got a little sweetness and fruity almost, and you get the earthiness from the matcha. It's great. I love it.
Nice. Yeah, what's it called again?
It's called Magic Mind. You'll see
Magic Mike?
Mind, like your
mind. M-I-N-D.
Yeah.
Magic Mind. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, Magic Mike is the movie with all the sexy dudes.
Why I said it. It's going to make you want to strip?
Yeah. It gets you all fit and in shape so you can strip.
Gets you in shape immediately and makes you want to strip. People pay a lot of money for that, man.
So I wanted to focus mainly on your music, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention your acting career. My wife and her mom are big fan. Like, The Burbs is their favorite movie, pretty much. And I mean, I watched it as a kid, but when we got married and everything, we would occasionally rewatch, and it's just one of her favorite, top movies of all time. And I remember growing up as a child, also, Children of the Corn. My mom used to call me and my cousin that. We were the children of the corn because we were like little devil kids running around, terrible things. But what was it like for you working on like the set of The Burbs with Tom Hanks? I mean, is there any story that kind of pops in your head from that experience?
Sure. Well, there's several, but the first thing, and it's kind of interesting to talk about it now because there was the writer's strike. That at the time there was that one that was like 90 days happened then, and I was too young and I'd been working consistently to understand like the ramifications of people being out of work. But literally, it was us and Fletch 2 on the entire Universal lot. It was empty, man. I mean, empty. I didn't realize just how crazy that was at the time, But it's kind of ironic because now here we are on a writer's strike that's actually broken that 90-day one. Now we're going into 100 and some odd days, and this strike, man, is I saw all this coming, so to speak, years ago. I thought the AI stuff would be coming. I know that streaming killed the music business, so I thought it would definitely hurt the film business as well. I didn't think it was going to hurt TV directly as much as I guess they're saying it is now. I didn't quite see that coming, but it's rough, and the streaming is killing the residual income. The residual income is like what a guy like me survives on as a middle class actor when it's slow. So if you take out the residual income for actors, basically there's going to be no such thing as middle class acting anymore. They're going to have a side hustle, or they're going to leave and go do something else that's financially productive. And I think it's gonna hurt the talent pool in the long run. And I would dare to say I think that's already happened in the music business. There was a
Yeah.
time in the 60s and 70s the greatest young minds were in the music business because it was fun and they could get paid. And now I don't think it's as easy to do because, there's no record sales anymore. You have to go on the road. But I think the quality, whether it be Clear Channel or both, I think the quality of music today is just not what it was,
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do with the industry, not being in a good as financial shape as it used to be, and they can't develop artists like they used to. I mean, some of these artists would develop 10 years before they had a big record. They'd
Yeah.
stand behind them. They believed in them. They'd keep doing it, keep getting better. And then boom, some magic would happen. Well, those days are over. Advances are over, And the same thing in the movie business as an independent filmmaker. Nobody wants to give advances anymore on pre-sales of movies. They're like, hey, why don't you put it on Tubi for free? Well, then why should I spend all that money and all that time to make a movie? I
Right.
mean, I think
Right.
the independent film business is like very, very tough now. I mean, I've produced, a handful of films in my life, and I think right now it's almost impossible. It's like 1 in a million that someone's going to break out of that. It's tough. So, I think that, what was the question again exactly? I went on one of my tirades again.
No, I wanted to talk about the strike as well, but I've asked
the Burbs. So the Burbs. So
yeah.
that was one of them. It was that there was a strike, and it was only us. And all I ever have to say about Tom Hanks, man, is he's the most down to earth A-list actor that there is. He is successful, obviously, but he doesn't come off like I could throw my weight around and be a jerk and get away with it, which some of these guys do. You know what I mean? He's not like that at all. So he really set a great bar to start the movie, because if your lead actor's down to earth, then nobody else can be like pulling bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
and he over the years has just always been kind to me and helpful if he could. And I wish I'd done a better job of staying in touch with him when I was younger, because he was very complimentary of my work and things like that. But the other person who really had an impact on me, I was already a big fan of, was Bruce Dern. And when Bruce Dern started seeing my work, he came up to me and he was just letting me know he really saw me and saw what I was doing, and really helped give me confidence in my work, because I still am a big Bruce Dern fan. I think he's great, and every once in a while you get to see it, like in Nebraska, and you're just like, holy cow, this guy's good. He loves to do a lot of improv and free association, and his mind is like. I got to work with him again in a movie called Hellblazers a couple of years ago, and he just blew me off the set with his ability to just improv, and I just could not hang with him. And he's like 80 years old or whatever he is, 75, and his mind's like boom, boom. I mean, he's just so sharp. But it was so great to see him again, and just to get to thank him again as an adult for acknowledging my work and how much that meant to me.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Going back into the strike a little bit before we wrap up.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're a member of the guild. You're on strike as well.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, because I know that horror movies get a lot of conventions. How does this affect the convention scene? Are you allowed to go?
I got to tell you, it's a little crazy. I'm not doing many this year, because Children of the Corn 40th is next year, so that's going to be the big enchilada, and that's the swan song for me. I'm going to take a break. I've been doing it like 15 years. I don't want to be, a dude that they got to wheel in a wheelchair. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm kind of tired of the travel and all that. So I thought that's a good one to go out on. Who knows? Maybe down at 45th, I'll want to, after 5 years off, maybe I'll be like, okay, cool. But I'm pretty much ready to take a break from it. I don't regret having done it. Don't get me wrong. It's been great. It's helped me pay the bills when things are slow. It's been a way for me to meet the fan base. I would have never known the Burbs had such an impact in people's lives, like you were talking about, because it did okay in the box office, but Tom Hanks had Big come out right before that, so it was like a disappointment by comparison. But that movie has a complete cult following that I don't think a lot of people realize, and I would have never realized if I hadn't done conventions. But so the weirdest thing I hear that's going on, though, and I gotta say I think this is lame, is they don't want you to have pictures of your past stuff you've done on your table. Like, you got to go buy it from somebody else or something and then bring it. I'm like, look, I understand not talking about the stuff that's coming out, I think that's definitely a way to hurt the studios and all, and that's fine. Don't promote the new stuff, but what I did 20 years ago, how does that affect them at all? How does that affect Hulu? You know what I mean? Like, I don't get
Right.
it. I don't get it. But apparently that's what they're. I haven't read anything that officially said that, but that's what I hear they're doing, which I just think is lame. But I am doing one show. I'm doing a show at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut called PhantasmCon. That's got all the Warrens, all their occult stuff and everything. The doll's going to be there. I'm a little freaked out. The doll, man, keep it in another room. But yeah, that's October 28th. And then I'm doing one other thing, but it's not an appearance as much as it is. I'm doing a thing called Haunted Pyramids in North Carolina, where my band's playing 2 nights, the 14th and the 15th. It's also a haunted house. But I'm digging that because that's going to be the first time this band's going to play in front of pretty much just like my core audience, right? And that's going to be fun because I know they're going to go like, well, let's see if this dude can play or not. And most of the bands are going to be metal too, but we're coming as a rock band and we're going to kick their butts.
Nice. Yeah, I saw in one of the in the email I got from Call Hammer that the tour is kind of coinciding with that 40th anniversary. I mean,
well, yeah, so I've got a booking agent now, so we're going to be able to start doing we're going to do 10 days in the West Coast, 10 days in the Midwest, that kind of thing. Little Johnson time, but also there's a 35 millimeter print of Corn out there. There's not many of them left that this guy has, and we're going to try to do some art houses around the country, Chicago, maybe Florida, a few different places where we'll do a screening of Corn, do a Q&A, band play, VIP kind of thing. So that's in the works right now. And cool. Yeah, there's not many 35. I did one at what was the place called? Yeah, the Mahonic Drive-In Theater up in like the Catskills, and they showed a 35 millimeter print. That's the first time I'd seen one in forever. There's maybe like 3 or 4 left, maybe.
Wow.
So it's kind of a rare opportunity. I figured, well, might as well piggyback on the Corn thing. It just kind of timed out that way that when the record came out, and so might as well do it all, right?
Absolutely. And now I don't want to overstep boundaries, but my brain always operates this way. But there is a place here called the Alamo Draft House that does 35 millimeter. There is a convention out here called Monsterpalooza, which is happening around that same time frame. So
where you at?
I'm in Los Angeles. So that Monsterpalooza happens
you're
in Pasadena.
LA. Eesh.
Yeah.
LA is a terrible place to do shows because there's actors here all the time. I mean, you see actors at the Starbucks.
Oh yeah. A lot of people don't realize that.
And I didn't realize there was an Alamo Draft House in LA now. Where's that?
There is.
Where's that?
Right in Hollywood, right here in Hollywood.
Right on.
I saw
cool.
Joker there. The
Alamo Draft House is great. They started in Austin. Texas. I went to one years ago, and I was like, "This is genius. Nice big cushy seats, no kids running around. Order a pizza and a beer. I'm in. Let's do this."
Yeah, but I'm just saying, there's Monsterpalooza, there's the Alamo Draft House, and there's plenty of venues. But yeah, like you said, playing shows out here sucks. Like, I don't even go to shows out here in LA. Whenever a band comes around town, I'll usually see if they have a show in LA and one in Anaheim. I'll go to Anaheim. It's a 40-minute drive.
Yeah.
I'll make the drive so I can avoid the chaos of Los Angeles.
Yeah, but sure. if I do a West Coast thing, I definitely do something in LA because obviously I know people there. I'll actually get people to show up just because they're my friends. So I certainly played the LA scene for a long time, played the Strip, all that stuff. But now it's like the Strip is like pay to play. You got to pre-buy your tickets, which I think that was the kiss of death of the Strip because think about it, like back in the day, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, you can go all the way back to the Doors, but like. You think those dudes, when they were 20 years old, are going to buy $400 of pre-sale tickets? No, but hell no.
No.
Not only wouldn't they? They couldn't. So you're not getting the best bands that are trying to make it, on the Strip anymore. So that scene just died, which I think is a tragedy when you think it goes all the way back to like early 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. That was a place to be discovered, Poison
absolutely.
out there giving their band flyers out on the Sunset Strip trying to get people to come see their band, Those days are done.
Yeah, I agree. I actually just put together I've been trying to do shows like live music shows. I had a couple metal bands perform, and they were all worried about that. Like, oh, do we have to buy pre-sales and blah blah blah? And I'm like, no, man, just I'll pay you if people show up. I'll grab all of the door and split it amongst you guys. I don't need to make money. I just want
You
to have
did
a
it
good
in
night.
LA. Where'd you do the gig?
So there's a place called Knucklehead here in Hollywood. It's a venue. It's a bar. It's got a stage, and yeah, they've given me dates to just do stuff. So I'm doing music nights and I'm doing comedy nights there. I'm just trying to provide a space for people that are working in industry folk that want to do stuff, and get them paid without putting these crazy demands of like pre-sale tickets.
That's awesome, man. Good for you. I tell you, like LA got so out of control that like my band, The Gathering, how we would do things, we'd get invited to an open mic. They liked us, they'd invite us back. If we hit the numbers, they'd invite us back again, right? It's pretty simple, right? That's how it worked. Nowadays, there are stand-ups paying for their 5 minutes in open mics, paying for their 5 minutes to play music. I think that's just a joke, man.
Yeah,
I've
paid $5 for 5 minutes before.
Yeah, I think that's BS though, man. I mean,
Yeah.
open mic means you're supporting the artist to get a chance to get on stage and work on their chops, and they're bringing friends, but now I got to pay for my time? Come on, man.
It's wild. It's wild. I agree. That's why I'm trying to put something together for people that like myself that just want to perform.
I think that's great. And then I think the way you're doing it, you'll give them if they get some people in, then and you get some, then they get some of the house. That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Absolutely. Well, if you want to play Knucklehead, let me know.
No, I'm not. No, that's not laughable. Because like I said, it's hard to play anywhere anymore. The only decent places to play in LA that there's a decent scene now is Silver Lake, which is where I grew up. There's some stuff coming out of there, and then downtown. Like if you want to, you got to know the bands. Like you got to know what's going on. It's not like they're being advertised, but the best, because no one, like I said, none of the decent bands anymore are dealing with the Strip.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, this is right off of Santa Monica, so it's not on the Strip, but it's close by.
That's
it's close
close
to the.
Enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's cool. I'm down for having that conversation. So
yeah. We'll talk after this.
Right after the show. After we drink some kombucha. Some
right,
Magic Mind. Send me a case of Magic Mind, and we'll talk about it.
There you go, Magic Mind. You're hearing this. Go send him a case.
I'll be like, hey man, how's it going? Let's do the show.
But I want to thank you so much for your time. I mean, I think I took more of your time than we agreed on, which is my bad, but
it's all good. No, this is right on about as long as you cut it any way you see fit. If it's too long and long-winded, and cut out all the times like, what are we talking about? I can't remember.
No, yeah, that's all staying in. Don't worry about it.
It's all good either way.
All right. So first, yes, thank you for your time. Where can people? Do you have social media presence? Like, where do you want to send people?
So you can find me on Facebook with Courtney Gains, and also Courtney Gains Group. Courtney Gains on Instagram. I don't have a check on there because I don't care. You'll know it's me. Yeah. The stuff I'm posting, nobody else has. So those are basically the three ways to find me. And then if you want to find the record, you got to go to fakefangs.com. Capital F, fakefangs.com. And you can hear the song Lookout. And if you like it, you can pre-order and you can get a personalized signed order. That's the only way you can get a personalized signed autograph, unless you want to bring one to a convention. And like I said, there's a limited number of 500 CDs that have been printed up right now, or you can do digi downloads. But that's the way to get it. And when the record comes out, you can listen to the whole thing like 3 times. And if you like it, then you can purchase it. So I like the way it's set up, that people can, hear it a few times and go, is this for me or not for me?
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a great way to do it. So yeah, please follow, please listen to the album. If you like it, pick it up. And then, yeah, thank you again. It's an honor to have you on the show, man.
Thanks, man. Pleasure talking to you.
Cheers.